there, kings and queens, and welcome to yet another episode of Faith Helps Podcast. And this is new. Okay, so for all of my audio listeners, you might be like, what's new? Well, I suggest you go over to my YouTube channel. This is going to be my first episode under the Faith Helps Podcast umbrella that I am posting audio and visual. So typically all of my episodes up until literally right now, they have only been audio. And this has always been a goal to eventually transition to having episodes that are both like audio and visual. Still working out some kinks with some things and just timing and just a bunch of different things. But nevertheless, I decided, you know what better time than now to just start. That's how I started the podcast in the first place. That's how I started my For the Kingdom nonprofit. That is how I started my doctorate program, was what better time than now to start. And so that is what I have decided to do. So hopefully moving forward, more of the episodes will be audio and visual. But eventually all of them will be both. But as for right now, taking baby steps, and this is my first baby step. So welcome if you are new to the Faith Helps Podcast. Hey boo, how you doing? And if you are not new, welcome back and thank you for returning. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the podcast episodes thus far. We've had some great conversations. One thing I will say and acknowledge, I know last week I did not give you guys an episode. I didn't even give you a warning, and I am sorry. I'm sorry and I'm not sorry, but I am sorry. I'm somewhere in between sorry and not sorry. The reason why is actually related to the topic that I have today, that will kind of be just me sharing my thoughts and reflections on some things, particularly related to what's been coming up for me lately, but also things that I typically see with my clients. And these last 2 months, there has been a consistent theme related to motivation, losing versus giving up hope, and kind of the merge of the two. So wanted to talk about that today. This episode might be a little bit more brief. It depends on how long I can sit in this car without passing out, because though my AC is on low, it is so low because I realize as I'm learning and navigating this new space and these changes that you guys hear the AC too much if I have it on at the level I need it in order to not pass out. So we are going to ask for God's grace over my life right now so that I don't pass out with a whole long sleeve on, because my office is cold, but I'm doing it here because this is a more private space that I have right now, and there's a lot going on at my internship, just a lot of noises, but nevertheless, here we are. We're gonna ride it out, pray for my oxygen levels, as well as for shade, right? Because this is the closest to shadedness I can find here. So go ahead and push through, right? So anyway, what I was saying was related to motivation and hope, and that's been a theme, just not that I've been seeing with like my clients, but it's something that I've been seeing in myself. Not necessarily losing motivation, but more so kind of like the waves of motivation. Something that I kind of had this epiphany on is, one, having a soft spot for creatives. When you are a creative, it can be so hard to learn how to channel your motivation, because you get so many ideas, you get so many like visions for things that you want to bring into fruition, You get so many thoughts and creative business ideas and even art forms that you want to bring into fruition. And sometimes it can be overwhelming if you don't know how to harness that properly and correctly. You can find yourself in this cycle of not finishing the things that you start, or giving up on the things that you have started, or just feeling like you're starting a bunch of things but none of them are being like completed, or you're not seeing them through, right? And that was something that I had been kind of reflecting on and kind of feeling very self-conscious of lately. It's just things that I kind of like look over in my life and see like a lot of these projects, a lot of these ideas, that things I've written down, visions that I've some visions I feel like it's just me. Some visions I feel like definitely God has spoken to me about them. Like my nonprofit, I know that is literally the first, like one of the first big visions God gave me. And I had to kind of pace myself and recognize that, we may have a timeline for when we want things done and when we want to see things manifest, but God has a timeline that's so much better. And He has a timeline that He knows that He's taken into account the things that we haven't, right? And so, one of the strong pulls that I feel regarding my nonprofit business is that it will be something to uplift and benefit residents and the community in Baltimore. And that's something I feel very passionate about, but it's also something that was like, it just was placed in me long before I was even out of middle school. Like, so I've been rocking with this thing for a minute. So I had to pace myself with the timeline that I thought all these things were going to happen on versus the timeline that God had set and the timeline that God had in mind for some of this. And so that was a learning curve, but the things I didn't take into account is the fact that I would be in Virginia for 2+ years, going on 3 years that I've been in Virginia, which kind of pulled me a little bit away from Maryland. And I had to find a balance of how to navigate that, and then dissertation stuff and graduate school, finals, all of that stuff, right? I didn't take into account all of that years ago when I first thought about, when I first got this like vision for the kingdom. So that was one. The other one that I feel like God has definitely placed on my heart is this podcast. And when I first was, kind of feeling the push to do this, I didn't even know it would turn into a podcast. I didn't even have that language. It was more so just me. If you go to my YouTube channel, I have videos, either of my YouTube channels, because there's two. I have videos from like 2018, videos from 2016 that I've posted of me just kind of having these type of conversations. And I don't even know what I was calling it back then. I know at one point I transitioned to calling them the Write With Me sessions related to the book that I'm writing and working on. But I didn't have the language for what I was feeling like God was revealing to me and calling me to and giving me the idea for. And I had to learn how to nurture this vision and how to take care of it and honor it, and also not allow myself to step too much into it that I lose sight of God's hand in it, or God's hand over it, right? And so that was kind of like the second thing. And then within that, there's the book that I've been working on for however long, which is what the videos ended up turning into, is Write With Me sessions based off of the things that I was writing in the book. I have not given up on the book. I'm still working on the book. However, my book has had to take a backseat because my dissertation said, hey, boo, do you want to graduate this year, or do you want to graduate next year or the year after? Like, it's up to you and how much time you're going to put in. And I said, okay, baby, I got you. Me and you, we're going to rock out these next couple of months, get you done, put you, down and just like in the cassette so it could be done. I love my topic. I do not love the research aspect. And I have not loved this writing process. It's just been a lot of tedious things to come up with trying to like do this study. I'll talk to you guys about it one day, but right now I'm not gonna use this time for that. But yeah, it had the book that I still know and feel and actually trust and believe. Like, this was something that literally came out of nowhere. Like, it just popped into my heart and mind one day. And I remember I was at work, back when I used to work at a psychiatric hospital. I had got mandated to work overnight, and I hated working night shifts. I wasn't like thrilled about them. And I found like the secret room that was like kind of away from my unit, and I was just like wandering around there. It was an office space, and I ended up just sitting there, and I laid down, like kind of laid back, and was just resting and enjoying like the quietness and the silence. And boom, 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 boom. That's literally how it happens. Like, book, title it this, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter, like, it literally was coming out of nowhere. And I had my book bag, because I was also still a student at the time, and I just started like writing down everything that was coming to my mind. And I noticed like some of the things were actually consistent with some parts of the videos I was already doing on YouTube, just because, right? And so those are like examples of things that I felt like God had placed on my heart and had actually given me reason and insight for. And so I decided, okay, these are the like top 3 things that I really need to be intentional and mindful about stewarding. And God, where do you want me with this? When do you want me to do this? Like, constantly saying in prayer and connection with him over it, because that is something he's given me. The other creative side of me is I have so many ideas of just things that I just like do. I'm like, ooh, that's cool, I want to do it. Ooh, I want to create this, and I create it. At one point I had a jewelry business. I don't think that was God. I think that was, I like making jewelry. But the talent, yes, he did give me. And so for a couple years I had a jewelry business. I'm horrible at doing business, bro. Like, I'm the worst like accountant ever. Like, I need to learn. 1, I don't like taking money from people. 2, I don't like asking for money unless it's like to benefit someone else. 3, when you ask me for a discount, I give it. Like, so it was just awful. It was awful. I'm proud of some of the pieces that I made. If you are bored and want to go see what that was like, I believe that was so long ago. I was in high school. I believe the Instagram that I made back then is still up, or Facebook. It was Facebook back then. The Facebook page I made for it might be on Instagram too. I don't know. Facebook or Instagram. It's on one of those, and it was called Diamonds Treasures, but Diamond spelled my name, DYMOND. And I just like made it and was making all this jewelry, but I was selling it, but primarily to people who I knew. I was allowed to sell it at school. Like, when I was in high school, I was selling it then. Like, the earliest, I think, was like 9th grade is when I started. At one point, like, even my brother's friends who had graduated, they were reaching out to me to make them custom pieces, and I loved doing it. But with some people, they like, oh, let me get this for the Freezy, and I'd be like, okay, it cost me like $30 to make in 4 hours of my time, but sure, here you go. Like, please post pictures and send people to me. But yeah, it wasn't going well. And then, so that was like a whole thing. At one point, I like was fashion designing, drawing like outfits that saints would pass out over right now. Not all of them were that bad, but that was like another like, ooh, ideas, talent, do this. Because I like to think I was a good like artist. I think I got that from my brother. But yeah, did that. Have always been and always will be passionate about dance. I slightly played with the idea of being a choreographer at one point. My parents wasn't going for that. They said, "Sis, you going to school, you dance your way to them classes." So that's what I did. And thank God for that, because I know, like, even while I had that passion for dance and loved dancing and loved creating choreography and enjoyed that, I I don't feel I know that I was also called to do this, right? And so that's something that I decided to kind of prioritize and make sure that I didn't give up on. To do more so on the end of just like fun, right? So those are just like some examples of things that I explored and tried and retried, but have also just like poured into, right? Because I enjoyed it. I am going to apologize because I feel like I got a little distracted just there as I was talking. My phone, even though it's on Do Not Disturb, just notified me of a phone call, and I don't know if you guys picked up that audio. Hopefully you didn't. I will see if I can remove it once I look over this video and do the edits. But nonetheless, as I was saying, I was just giving you guys examples of like God-given talents, gifts, ideas, visions, versus some things that you're just talented and gifted about. And all of the point of that was kind of coming back to point A that we were sitting with, was it can be hard to know how to focus your motivation and your energy and where to channel it when you are creative and when you have all these ideas, when you have all this vision and inspiration. And I just want to validate that that can be difficult. I also want to talk about it in the relationship to how to handle motivation, as well as not giving up and hope. And I'll kind of just talk freely and let these thoughts like free flow. And so one of the things I've seen in myself this last week is these last 2 weeks, which kind of contributed to me making the decision to not do an episode last week, was feeling burnt out from all of these different things that have been coming up lately, the things that I just have to do related to my degree, but also some things that I feel pulled in a obligation to do, right? And I had to learn how to balance that. And I don't think I did a good job of it these past 2 weeks of really harnessing it. I think some of the things that kind of factored in and made it more difficult is not really taking care of my basic needs. So I preach that to you guys all the time. You know, we're not perfect, and there was like exhaustion from just like not getting enough sleep, the exhaustion from driving to a total of 3 hours every day because I commute, the exhaustion of dealing with puppies, because I don't care what nobody say, that is a job, right? And then just attending to family stuff and things that are coming up for people who are particularly important to my life. And you know, typically nowadays we say life been lifing. That's been true for me. Life has been lifing, and so I had to kind of make the executive decision of it is okay, and I had to do a lot of convincing of myself that it was okay for me to prioritize my basic needs and my sanity and what and my like family who needed me that last Thursday, and the things I needed to, you know, take care of and get done, and we will resume and get back the next week. And I think that's the part that sometimes people miss out on, is they stop and they never start back up. they stop. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a hiatus. If you need to attend to a family matter, if you need to attend to your own health issues, if you need to attend to just basic things that you got to get done, like academic and work responsibilities, it's important to do that, because you still have to, you know, if you're in school, you still need to graduate. If you are working a job, you need that job, even if your job is just to pay for and fund your creative side, the visions and the dreams that you're working towards. So there's a balance, but in all, it's okay to say it's all right for me to take a moment, take a step back, and it can work vice versa. Sometimes you need to take a step back from work in order to focus or pour more energy and attention into your goals, your personal goals, your visions, and your dreams. And I've done that as well, without any regrets. Taking PTO to literally just be home working on fine-tuning things, learning the best ways to structure things, reading books about writing books, and knowing like all the manuscript stuff I didn't know. And so it's okay for you to take breaks and hiatuses and to pause as needed, in whichever area of your life that you need. However, resume, especially when it comes to your giftings, your talents as well, the things that you're passionate about, because your talents can be a source of revenue and a source of funding at some point. But you also, just because you're talented at something, it doesn't mean that you don't need to work on it or perfect it or strengthen that talent. You can still pour into it. No, I am probably not going to become a choreographer, but I still dance every weekend. I still take time to pour into that talent. I'm still intentional about it. I'm still intentional about creating up new choreography. No, I don't still make jewelry, but I do still get ideas, and I do write them down when they come to mind, because who knows, maybe one day when I'm at a point in my life when I can create that business and manifest it in a way that would be successful, and also structured in a way that is an actual professional business, and not just giving away everything for free. Because time is money, baby. Anyway, like I was saying, these are just like things that come to mind, and it can be hard. It can be very easy to get lost in it. It can be very easy to stop and take a break and then never get back on that horse, or never get back to working onto that, whatever that vision is. So I really have felt, and I've found myself repeatedly these last 2 months has been a consistent theme of me having, not all, but a lot of clients coming in with issues with motivation. And also it's that time of season, especially when it comes to academia, because things are wrapping up. You're kind of like, senioritis and all that is happening, and a transition in your life is about to happen if you're planning on graduating, and all that stuff comes up. And so it makes sense that that's an issue, but it wasn't just about academics with my clients that have been coming in. It's also been about their dreams and the things that they want to do, that some of those things have nothing to do with the degree or their master's that they're getting. And so helping people kind of figure out, how do you harness your motivation? How do you pour into the right cups? Because if you're constantly pouring all of it into your academics, and then you allow your cup of passions and talents to kind of waste away and continue to be left empty, ultimately you're not living in purpose. You're not going to find joy and happiness, because you're doing something that you maybe don't feel particularly enthused to do, or purpose to do, or passionate about. And I think passion is very important when it comes to anything that we do. There has to be a level of, if not passion, at least interest in it. And so this is the type of conversation I've been having with my clients, and really taking a step back and some of the consistent themes that have come up is, one, not taking care of themselves. So they've been not only just pouring all of their energy, effort, attention, and time and resources and money into their academics or just their career, and their jobs, and not pouring any into their passions, talents, and giftings, or the things they feel called to do, right? But it's also been not taking care of their basic needs, what they needed as far as rest, what they needed as far as like taking a break and needing a break. And it can be really hard. I want to acknowledge it can be so hard to find those opportunities when you are a student or when you are working full time. And I will also say it's important that you find them. I know a lot of people tend to say, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that, I don't have time for this. I'm going to stand on this 10 toes down. If you sit down and write out your schedule, technically you will find pockets of time. Even if, like, don't look for, oh, I need 2 hours to, no. Taking care of yourself does not have to require 2 hours or a full day. If you have 10 minutes, 5 minutes to sit down and just focus on your breathing, there are so many biological benefits to just practicing and exercising deep breathing interventions, focusing on what you see, hear, and feel around your surroundings and your environment, being outside, being in the sun, being in fresh air, taking moments and pockets of time to step away from everyone else. Even if you are a parent with a house full of kids, taking a moment to set a boundary. Yes, this is going to sound crazy, but absolutely you do need it. As a parent, you may need to set some boundaries and say, okay, this is family time, this is time I devote to my kids and pour into them. And because in order for me to function as a mother or father at the level that they need me, I do need my 5 minutes or my 10 minutes to go up to the bedroom. Kids understand when mom, dad puts this sign on the door, they do need that 5 minutes or those 10 minutes, or reaching out to family members or friends if you have them that you trust and can rely on to help you navigate, just having some alone time or 5 minutes to kind of center yourself and pay attention to what your body needs. But you need to find that time. You need to find it. Even if it's at work. If you die on that job, it don't even matter if you die on the job, after the job, they are going to replace you and keep it moving. They might have a nice little memorial for you, but they're going to keep it moving. So, especially if it's just a job, it's different when this is something related to your passions. But I'm speaking about those like things like academia, but like jobs that 9 to 5, those sorts of things that you're just, rote memory doing, and you're just an employee, right? Prioritize your wellness. That means, and I find that this is actually, I feel like this is very common. I don't have no stats to offer you, so fact check me, correct me, drop it in the comments. I'd be curious to know what the actual stats on this are. I feel like it's more common for minority groups or marginalized groups to be less willing to take their PTO time. I haven't researched this, okay? So forgive me if I'm wrong, but I just get this feeling that we tend to not take advantage of that PTO time as much. Whether or just like time off, even if it's unpaid, because one needs there can be a lot of pressure to perform and to be the best, to do things. There can be pressure or some guilt, or maybe even some feelings of shame of taking the time off and feeling like, I'm letting people down. I feel like it also plays a role and factor in the organization that you're working in. How willing are they to give you the time off, and how supportive are they of giving you the time off? I feel like all of that is important to consider. But I'd be very curious to know what the stats are. So drop it in the comments if you look it up. But nevertheless, the point is take time, find the time, make the time. If you have something every single hour, every single day, from the moment you lift your head to the moment you go to sleep, and there's no wiggle room to wake up earlier to create a new structure or to change your sleep schedule or whatever, if that is not an option, create time, carve it out there. Whether it's your social media time, whether it's your time on just watching TV, because TV can feel like downtime, and it can feel like, oh, this is my self-care. You need things as well that are going to be restorative to your mind, body, spirit, and soul. And I would encourage you to find those things, whether it's moments of silence, deep breathing, exercising, yoga, reflection and journaling, being outside, going for walks, whatever it may be, using your five senses to engage and connect with centering yourself and finding moments or pockets of time to take a step away. If there are certain spiritual practices that feel rejuvenating and refueling to you, engage in those, right? And make time to do it. So that is what I have to say about motivation. I think the other part that I've seen is the hope piece, the hope aspect. I feel like, and I've seen this kind of come up with my clients, is losing hope on the visions that you have and the dreams and the goals and the passions that you have. And I want to validate that it can be discouraging sometimes when you're working towards something, you feel passionate about it, you feel called to do it, you feel gifted to do it, you have this amazing vision of what it would look like if it was to come into fruition, but it's not happening at the timeline you want it. Or you keep finding that every time you do something, it gets blocked, or every time you make some progress, you end up getting pulled 10 steps back, right? It can be easy to lose hope then, right? I want to encourage you to kind of come back to something that I've said a lot, is remember your why. Write it down. I feel like I've said this on every episode, like for the last 5 Thursdays. It is so important to write it down and have it somewhere where you're going to see it, so you will be reminded, so you will be encouraged, so you will not lose sight of it. Out of sight, out of mind is a thing. So when you keep it in sight, you also keep it in mind, and reminding yourself daily of what is it that you're called to do, what is it that you're passionate about, what steps can you make, what's the next step that you should take, what small steps that you can take. Maybe you can't take this big investment right now, maybe you can't pull out this big loan right now. What do you need to do to prepare yourself and set yourself up to being able to get that loan, so that you can pour it into this business that will succeed, that will come into fruition, that will prosper? And there may be times when it fails or it doesn't go the way that you want to, but that doesn't mean that you give up on it, right? Sometimes the frustration and the challenges we experience is not always a sign to give up on it. Sometimes it's a sign to go 10 times harder. 10 times harder. Sometimes that is the enemy showing you, stop, give up. I don't want you to do this. This is something that's going to change the world, so I need you to just give up on it. Don't do that unless God is pulling you and steering you, and you feel like as you continue to pray about it, you've been receiving messages. I don't know what you and your relationship and communication looks like with God, but if you feel like God has been telling you, no, this is actually something I'm not calling you to do, or this is, something I'm not calling you to do right now, because that's also a possibility. No doesn't always mean no forever. Sometimes it's a no right now, but it's gonna take you being attuned with God and seeking Him out in order to kind of parse apart what that is, right? So yeah, sometimes the challenges are motivation, sometimes they are redirection, and asking for God to give you a peace over accepting if it is something that He wants you to set aside, whether indefinitely or just for a time, right? And seeking that out, being intentional about praying about that and seeking out his direction, right? So I think that's just important to keep in mind whenever there's a goal or a vision or something you're feeling particularly pulled to do or work on or passionate about. Pour into it, man. Find time to pour into it, even if it's just a little bit at a time. But don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on your passions. Don't give up on your talents. Use them. Use them. And continue to practice with them. Even if it's not an everyday thing, like continue to dabble in them. And when you are at a place financially or time wise to be able to delve more into them, do it. Do it. Someone somewhere needs it. And sometimes that can be a motivating factor. Someone somewhere needs it. Maybe the challenge you're facing right now and the barriers are redirection. Maybe they're a sign for you to keep going and to go ahead and make the enemy scared. Make him scared and go 10 times harder and make it come into fruition. Right? Let's do that. Let's go 10 times harder. And let's be wise about it, okay? Don't go out here saying Diamonds and told you to pull out all of your savings and all of your check-in and pour it all into something that you didn't even write a business plan for. Don't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't tell you to go into debt. I said use wisdom, okay? Let's make that clear. Use wisdom and seek God's direction. And when you are at a space to be able to invest into your business and you have thought it out and you've created that plan, do it. All right? Well, guys, I need to go back inside and kind of just not be in the car anymore, right? I've appreciated this time with you guys. I've appreciated being able to do this video, and I know and am excited to see next steps in making this a more consistent thing. But until next time, please remember to pour into your dreams, pour into yourself, pour into your talents, pour and invest into the visions that God has given you. Write them down, make them seen, make them visible to and wherever you are going, right? Don't give up on them. Use your job and your your academic support into your passions and giftings and visions, right? Don't give up on them. If you needed a sign, hello, this is your sign. Don't give up on them. And if nothing else, please remember, a little faith helps. Peace out.